Welcome to the 8 Billion Project, where we're on a mission to make an impact by discovering and sharing the purpose of every person on this planet. I'm your host, Liza Florida. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am your host, Liza Florida. And again, you guys are joining us for season 5D, an absolutely spectacular season. And to follow, I have a spectacular guest. She is an intuitive life coach, an Akashic Records teacher and practitioner, and a Heartfulness Meditation Trainer. She blissfully enjoys guiding individuals and groups into journeying within to connect to their essence, to live in alignment with their heart, and to radiantly shine their uniqueness in the world. Is that yo or you?
You.
Welcome, Lynne Marion, to the 8 Billion Podcast. Oh my gosh, my heart is like overflowing and singing. This one, you guys, is very special to me. Not that none of them are in the 5D season, but Lynne and I, when we connected, I just want to tell the audience, this has been an unbelievable season of attracting these divine souls to this podcast. And Lynne, from the moment we did the pre-interview, I was just like, I was like, where have you been all my life? Well, we've probably been in different lifetimes, but in this life we met for this reason. So, or this brought us together, because I'm not letting go of Lynne after this.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you, Lisa. And I'm so happy to be here today. It's my honor. Yay.
No, it's an honor to really share your work, because one thing that I want to tell the audience is, I was going back to back on pre-podcast interviews, and it was incredible, like what, and it's still like, no matter how high the frequency is of people, it's still very tiring energetically. But when Lynne just came on camera, I was like, blah, 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 blah. I could not stop talking. And I was just in this high vibrational state, because she's such a calm soul, and she listens and she laughs, and she has such a good spirit. And I was just like, I'm never letting go of Lynne.
Oh, how sweet. I love your energy. This is so nice.
Lynne, I know you do some amazing things, but why don't you start with telling your story of how you got to becoming this intuitive life coach, your Akashic Records teacher and practitioner, to this work here today? How did you tell us your story?
Okay, so I started as a mathematician. So I have this very analytical, logical side of me, and very structured. And I also worked a lot in project management, humanitarian work, NGOs, community work, which I absolutely love and was passionate about. And one day it happened, and I couldn't believe this. It was like this inner knowing and voice and feeling that said, this is over now. And I was like, what? And then it felt like I had to break up with my passion now. Like we both had to take on different routes. And so this I was very, very sure of, but I had no idea what I was going to do. But I just knew that whatever I had done in the past, I just had to let it go, say goodbye to international development, community organizations, and move forward towards what I didn't know at the time, but towards what my soul was calling me to do. And so I consulted my first life coach, and she gave me this homework assignment. And she knew that I was truly highly passionate. So she gave me this assignment to write on a sheet of paper, what do you truly, seriously, sincerely, passionately want? With a question mark. And she said, you know what, Lynne? Like, she knew my academic background. I have 3 university diplomas. Like, I was used to looking for titles and everything outside of me. I was not used to like asking myself with a capital S. And so I wrote down the question, and she said, listen, you're not going to write down any titles. You're just going to ask yourself what it is that you truly, seriously, sincerely, passionately want. And she said, you can leave this somewhere and you can write the answers. It could take you a few days, a few weeks. It doesn't matter. You can come back to it. or it could all come out in one shot. She just said, just see what happens. And so I listened. And there I sat on my little favorite IKEA couch and with my favorite journal and pen. And I just wrote the question in really big on a sheet of paper. And then, to my surprise, these answers were being written down. I had about like 10 to 15 points. And I was like, who's writing this? Like, I just
It
let it
felt like
write.
automatic writing.
Yes. And so it was so beautiful. But the answers were actually bringing me like goosebumps because it said something like help humanity evolve in consciousness, be a self development consultant, like all these things. And I was like, what? And so then she had instructed me to keep this sheet of paper in view so that I could read it once a day, not more, not less, just read it once a day for 21 days. I said, okay. So then I read the whole list. And after 14 days, I fell upon on the internet the words Akashic Records. And this was in 2010, which there was not a lot of people that spoke about the Akashic Records. And so I was mesmerized by those words. And so here I was alone in front of my computer until 2 a.m. trying to click from link to link to link to know more about this fascinating, captivating term, Akashic Records. And so I thought, okay, I'm on to something. And then a few days later, I traveled to my favorite spiritual bookstore, which was up north. And I was traveling to my family's cottage. And so I stopped at that bookstore, which I only go 2 or 3 times a year. As I entered, this I couldn't believe. Something like literally pushed my head to look at the right. And on the table, a book was displayed, an orange book. And it literally said how to read your Akashic Records.
Yeah.
And so I walked towards the book and I randomly opened the page. And it said something like, if you have been attracted to this book, consider it a long distance call from the universe. And then I just closed the book. And I was all alone in silence and I couldn't believe it. And I just went to the cash. I didn't even look at anything else in the bookstore. And I just went outside with my new book. And then I put my hands in prayer and I said, thank you to the universe.
It's those moments. I'm telling you, people are like, how do you find signs? I'm all like, watch season 5D. There will be episodes and episodes of people's signs of telling them where to go.
Yes. And so afterwards, I ended up contacting the author, which was Linda Howe. And I knew she was offering this teacher training for the Akashic Records. And I was super pumped, passionate. Yay, I found it. Like, and then luckily my life coach has said, don't think of a title because in a million years, I would have never, ever, ever found those words. So literally don't think of titles. When you're really looking for something, just write what it is you really want. And then, so I called Linda Howe, I call her up and I said, listen, I want to be a teacher. I hadn't even opened the record. I hadn't done anything. And she's like, okay, Lynn, let me see something. So she leaves me a few seconds on the phone. And I guess she went to check something with my soul. I have no idea what she did.
You have to go check your Akashic record.
I have no idea. And I'm new to this. I don't even know what it is, but I want to do it. And she's like, okay, well, why don't you start with the introduction workshop? And then we were in July and she looked at her schedule and she's like, I'm offering a workshop in Salem, Massachusetts, the city of witches. And so, but it was in September and it was September 11th. Like it was just so crazy. And so I was a little bit bummed out because I wanted it now. And then she said, well, listen, think about it. You know, I'll be in Massachusetts. It's close to Montreal where I lived. And she said, you can just come. And I said, okay. So I hung up and I ended up signing up for that workshop, my first workshop. And that was life transforming because in that moment when I drove to Salem, I was in this room. There was 35, we were 35 people with Linda Howe facilitating, and everyone in that room, when it was time to introduce yourselves, they were either a healer, a Reiki master, a psychic, all these things. And I was like, what? I was used to being with project management people or NGO. And I'm like, and I had just read Deepak Chopra's, one of his books, I don't know which one, but it said, you'll be surrounded by people that are like you. And it just came to me. And I was like, everyone introduced themselves. And I said, am I one of them?
Right?
Yes.
To the
And
audience, I know this story already, but when I hear Lynn tell it, we were busting up. I'm going to have her continue to tell it, but I need to tell my story after that, after you tell yours. Do you want to continue talking about what happened or what she said to you? No.
oh yes. Okay. So I forgot that. Thank you, Lisa. So then in that group of 35 people, I was the only one non-American. I was Canadian and I was the only French speaking. I had like the little orange book and everyone else had a blue book. And and so I was very new because I had no idea that I could even be a healer or a light worker. I love that word. And even like not even an Akashic Records practitioner, like those terms never came to me. But then, so Linda Howe asked the group, like, okay, so who has been here for the first time? And I was a first timer at everything, it felt. And so I just raised my hand. And then she said, oh no, Lynn, we've been here before burning. And I was like, oh my God. And I had just visited like that museum of witches and stuff. So I was like, okay. And I laughed and she's so funny. And yeah, so that was a very, very interesting.
To the audience, point of reference when Lynn talks about remembering. If depending on which how this falls, I'll reference to this quite a bit. Life is a process of remembering, and if you've come this far into the season, you'll know that I'll talk about this heavily, that we've lived many lifetimes together, and the things that you do in life will sometimes be a reflection of some of the past lives you've had. So when Lynn was told, no, Lynn, we've been here before burning, she's referencing to the Salem witch trials, right? The Salem
Yes.
witch, right? And so we're busting up, and it's so crazy because I'll tell you my story. So in 2020, when we went into lockdown and there was this huge global meditation, right? I was like, okay, I'm gonna participate in this global meditation. I don't know what I could find. I could just found anything, and it said. So I started listening to it because I just wanted to be in the meditative state amongst everyone globally. I just didn't know what meditation I was going to use. So it's like 10 minutes in. Look at everyone around you. These are your star brother and sisters. You're all star seeds. And I opened my eyes and I was just like, star seeds, right? I mean, I had heard of them. Now I'm deeply into that work as a star seed, right?
Yes.
And it was just like, look, you don't know each other, or you think you don't know each other, but you all came and incarnated into this world to do something greater. And then you look left and you look right and you don't know anyone. I was like, yeah, I've never seen any of these people before. But
yes.
that's an example, guys, of remembrance. And here I am 2 to 3 years later from that moment. I'm so like, all I do is I'm really connected to the cosmos, and I love all of the work of the star seeds. I just relate to it on such a deep level.
Yes. And I love that you mentioned the star seeds because I also am a soul realignment practitioner and we use the Akashic Records and that gives information about your soul. And star seeds, really, the explanation that they would give is just that your soul has lived on other planets other than only planet Earth.
Yeah.
But apparently, there's a high percentage of humans that have only been on planet Earth. So the star seeds are a less percentage according to soul realignment. And so,
I
yes,
didn't know that.
Yes, and that's why like they will not have the same kinds of rememberings.
Oh, sorry, audience.
No, no, no. Like probably everyone listening here might be a starseed, but yes. This is according to soul realignment. So you have earther souls, souls that have
That for the first
incarnated on
time
earth.
have incarnated.
On earth, yes. And only earth. And then the starseeds apparently, like we have incarnated on other planets. That is why sometimes we'll feel like, well, I don't really agree with like the political system.
This
I
is
am
not my
over that.
home.
No, exactly. It's not my home. Where's the truth? Why aren't people in harmony and helping each other? Like,
Mhm.
so sometimes we can have different perspectives. Yes.
No, and I really like this. I'm gonna move with this subject, Lynn, because I just wanted to explain this to everyone. It it almost like, and I mentioned this before. I grew up like with rose-colored glasses, or very idealist, and I would always feel like why couldn't we live in a utopian world? Like,
I'm the same.
what,
Yes.
right? Like, why is everyone so mean?
Yes.
And I grew up being the kid that was so nice, and everyone else was just like mean, and it was so hard because I couldn't acclimate to the whole ego mind, and like,
Hmm.
right, it was, I always use my heart, but I was like, if I always use I used to cry. I was like, if I always use my heart, why am I the one always getting hurt?
Mm.
Until I started learning to create healthy boundaries. You can love everyone, but you have to understand, if you're not in alignment with who you're meshing with, you're going to constantly clash. For them, it makes logical sense. For me, it makes more heart sense. And so that right there is not alignment. Right.
Hmm.
And so, well, and then just to give you an idea, since Lynn just enlightened me about this whole thing, and if it is your first time incarnating to Earth, if you believe in reincarnation, from a starseed perspective, it's like our view in life is so vast. Like, we don't even just see this planet. That's why probably 8 billion is like, no problem. 8 billion. We see galaxies and multiverses and infiniteness. And so this feeling of love overcomes us, and it's like we feel this mission to really bring this here on earth, you know,
Yes, and that's what's beautiful. It's very important to embody that
embody.
because very often we wish to escape. Like, I don't
Mm.
want to be here. This is not fun. I
Yes.
remember once I went to this one lady, um, and this was a reference from a friend of mine, and she just said, "Go see this lady. She's awesome." I had no idea what she did. I just went. And when she saw me, she said that she in her life had never seen such a human being because my roots were to my knees. And the roots should be beneath your feet and really connected to the earth. But I was at my knees and she said she had never seen. I just didn't want to be here. I
Wow.
just didn't want to root myself. Yes.
Wow.
And so, but it is very important because I've read a lot on this or heard many different things or even had intuitions or Akashic messages. And it's really about rooting like you ground yourself here because you came here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if that love that you have, the light that you have, the messages you have, they are to be shared here and embodied here. And so sometimes it can be easier to remember something else rather than what is. Like it can feel more comforting but it doesn't mean that we cannot shift or transform here. Like we came here for a reason. So I love remembering that because it's been a huge struggle or even subconscious struggle for me to just ground myself.
To ground yourself here, because
Yeah.
I was just gonna say too, when you came across that in 2010, like, I felt like I had my first understanding of an awakening in 2008. That's where it's like, everything is energy, everything is energy. This is great, guys. But I was still like in a lot of pain. So had this
Mm.
big heart to do humanitarian work. But again, I implanted back into 3D because that was more, of course, accepted. right? It's
Mhm.
never felt for me like I belonged anywhere. And like my friends, you know what I mean? Friends get
Yes.
married, they have this family. You cannot, I was like, how come I can't have a traditional life? Like, why couldn't I, right?
Absolutely.
Why couldn't I just
Absolutely.
have the white picket fence, the 2 kids, the normal job and all this kind of stuff? But every time I would try and go that route, it's like, nope, you
Yes,
know?
exactly, because we are meant to be unique, so different, and in those differences lie treasures. But it's what I've found for myself, and I don't even know if I'm 100%, it's about accepting those gifts and your uniqueness and
Yeah.
that you are different. And that's one of the major issues I've had to deal with without even realizing it. Because what happens if you're not accepting it, then you're choosing something that might not necessarily be in line with who you truly are.
Yeah.
Because it'll be easier to revert to what the majority is choosing or encouraging or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's unbelievable. I mean, like it's really, and that's what I'm saying, you guys. Like a lot of people now, a lot of people that are either on mission or like us doing work, like they're like, where are all these people coming from? You know what I mean? And we're really starting to rise to surface. Like, what did you guys do? Well, believe me, we didn't have your most conventional like journeys. And it doesn't mean that you can't move into this space of like great awareness and spirituality. It's just letting you know, like, it was Lynn's thing where she did the automatic writing, or she saw the Akashic Records book and she said, okay, I'm going to go straight to the register and pay for this. Or she was in a room of 35 people and everyone had been like healers for years. And she's like, no, I'm coming from project management. And like, those are, I mean, for me, that's what I said. I said, I feel like I'm a spiritual junkie disguised as a real estate agent for many years, because
Mm.
it wasn't the only part of real estate that I enjoyed really was handing over the keys to say, here's your house. If I could get paid full time just to hand over keys, because it was the happiness and joy it brought me. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
other people love the negotiation part. I'm all like, you guys can have that part. I want to see the happiest part of it.
And I love that because it's about welcoming them into their new home. I
Yeah.
find it's very symbolic for you too.
Yeah. No.
Handing over the keys and enter your home. Beautiful.
Well, okay, Lynn, because this podcast is about you, because we're gonna share everything.
Yes.
Because I'm all like, I love Lynn. You guys have to go like get an Akashic Records. So then, from that moment, there, how did it all unfold? Like from
Oh,
2010 to like, because still there's, I feel like there's this long, there's this long period of, I feel like what's happened is a lot of these people that have woken up in this wave has really had it in the last 3 years. So there's this whole 8 to 9 year period. Like there's some people like kind of like, okay, where do I go with this?
okay. Yes, I love that. So, what happened afterwards was that this was so miraculous to me because during that weekend in Salem, Massachusetts, so the first night we had, after we learned how to open our own Akashic records, we had homework, a homework assignment. And so I went back to my room and then I was alone and I had a journal. And so we were invited to open our Akashic records, and Linda Howe, the teacher, gave us questions to write, and we had to find the answers according to the information given through the Akashic records. So one of the questions was, why am I being called to work with the Akashic records at this point in time? And and this voice, like, then I just opened my records and it channeled an answer and it said, you were born to do this. And then I'm all alone and I'm just looking left and right like, who are they talking to? But that that
Yeah.
it resonated so much, like, that moment, one sentence, and I was like, it just was really, really powerful, and
Believe me, it's like out of a movie, right? Like you're
yeah.
like, who said that? I've had those moments. I've absolutely, and I was like, stop it. I can't take it anymore.
Yes. And so from then on, I knew that this was like being told you were born to do this. Like, I have something to do with this. Like, this is big stuff. And then the few friends that I had at the time that I told them I discovered this, they would get all goosebumps and they would feel
Yeah.
like you found it. You found it. So, in any case, afterwards, what I did is so during that introductory session workshop, she asked us before starting to offer professional sessions, like because I also learned how to open other people's Akashic records.
Mhm.
She said, well, practice on people and then you can start offering professional sessions. And so I decided to ask my own Akashic records, how many people do I need before I start charging anyone? And they gave me the number 19. And I said, okay. So I sent an email to my networks and I said, okay, guys. And then I explained a little bit, listen, I've just been trained in the Akashic Record. I had like 25 people wanting a session. And
Already.
that's how it started for me, because from there, since then, like people had just referred to me other people, and those that came to me, they would just refer. So it just went on and on like that. And in parallel, I was going through the neuro linguistic programming master life coaching, the NLP life coaching master practitioner. And so I finished that. And so I decided to ask 10 people if they wanted 5 life coaching sessions with me, and they would come to my place. And then so they signed up too. So I had all these people coming to my
Like
house.
almost instantly, Lynn?
I mean, yeah, this happened like, yeah, the 25 people were quite instant. It was, they took their appointments over 3 months. Like we did it over 3 months. And then the NLP, like it was a few months later. And then I did the same process. And so that gave me a chance to practice and it gave me experience. And then I knew what I could offer.
Yeah.
So then I just offered it and it was so much fun. And so, yes, and I really, really, really loved it up until this day. Like it's
And it's
always an
never
honor.
stopped, meaning to say, like, even because I'm thinking, and this could really just be my objective view, like that you back in that time, because it's still, you know what I mean? Like readers, because from religious standpoint, right? We were taught like, oh, readers are bad and all this kind of stuff. Then I started seeing so many readers secretly, and I was just like, I couldn't stop. But yeah, it was like it's all a part of the awakening. I'm so glad though that it happened for you, and it hasn't stopped. Like you were eight. That's what they meant. Like you were born to do it.
Yeah, I guess I just love it. So every time I have someone, I just feel it's such a beautiful honor for me and it's a blessing and it's sacred work, really. And then I went on to become the teacher. Like I got certified as a teacher, so in 2014.
Uh-huh.
And so from then on, I started teaching people like how to read their own Akashic records.
That's
Yes.
okay. Let me ask you, since the audience is probably going to wonder this: does everyone have the ability to read the Akashic records?
Okay, I love that question.
Yeah.
So what happens is you can all, like everyone can access their Akashic records, but this is what I like to say because everyone is on a unique path, like with your own
Gift and skill
unique
sets.
gifts and, memories and all this. And so always feel that whoever feels called to do so, it's really coming from your soul. But
Mhm.
so it's a little bit like everyone can play music. Everyone can play music. You can take a guitar and you can start playing. But there will also be like really, really born musicians.
Yeah, because I was like, you don't want to hear me play.
Exactly. So like, and you can practice, and get better and better, but you'll know if that's what you're meant to be doing with your life and experiencing it. And so not everyone will leave the same experience when they open their Akashic records, because this is a good question. When I was like doing that homework assignment, like it would just flow through me very
Yes.
naturally the very first time. And so the next day when I came back to that little 35 people and I'm sitting next to my some colleagues, and the lady next to me, when she saw my journal, she's like, you got all of that? And I said, you didn't? And she got barely like 3 words. And I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
So I had no reference point.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
that doesn't matter because I was always in the teacher training. I was with a friend. We were sharing the room and we were having a 1 week trainings in the US. And so she explained to me that it took her 1 month before she even got like a flow going with her Akashic
Yeah,
records.
it's true.
Before 30 days, she got nothing. And, I met her while she was becoming a teacher. So all of this to say that, yes, I think everyone is entitled and has the right to access their Akashic records, but then the experiences might be different.
Mm-hmm.
And the intention will be the most important thing, though.
No, I'll leave it to all of you guys, because to me, in the last 6 weeks, you don't know how many Akashic Records people I've attracted. And it's incredible. And it's like, I probably didn't even mean to. I've known of it, but now I have like so many friends, but I'm all like, Lynne, and it does. And I want the audience to know, like, wherever you are on your journey, whether you feel like you're coming upon spiritual gifts or something, or it could be a career change, you have to tap into some things that will try it if you feel called to it, but you'll know. It's just like me with getting on camera. Like I never thought in a million years, because my background is real estate. When I got on, I was like, oh, how come I can just talk on the camera and it's just like nothing? And even if I'm not talking to anyone, I'm talking to a lot of people.
Yes, I love this.
I feel like but everyone in the podcast is probably like, oh my gosh, these two. But yeah, I feel like that you'll find your natural gifts. And hers was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. The automatic writing, like my vision writing has become like that. Like at first it started taking a little bit of practice because your ego is getting in the way.
Yes, sometimes that can happen a
Yeah,
lot, depending where you're at on your journey. Yes.
yeah. And then after a while, that was the case for me. And then after a while, now it just flows. Like it's almost like I can, like, you can
Because you build that trust and it's like a muscle, like you just practice, and then it can flow better and better. Yes. And what I wanted to say also was that on my journey, because I told you like the part where I found what it is that my soul was seeking for, or what I wanted, but I didn't know at the time. But it can hurt before you find that.
Mhm.
And one way that I knew about it was that, oh, I would sign up for something, for a contract in project management or something else. And I started feeling exhausted. I started feeling drained. And I'm a very high vibe energy, joyful person. So that was a sign to me something is off. If you are continuously feeling drained, ask yourself if whatever it is you're doing in your life, could be a habit, it could be some kind of food, it could be a relationship, it could be your job. Is there something there that needs to change? Because we are meant to be in flow with this infinite source of energy.
Mhm.
And when I tapped into my Akashic records, I could barely sleep. There was so much energy.
So much. Yep.
And that's a good way to know, like, when you do something you love, you don't run out of energy. Of course, if something you love is doing marathons, after a while you need to rest. But I mean, if it's this, continuous, perpetual exhaustion, something's off. And please, please look at your life and ask yourself, is there something that I'm doing that's going against my own
Mhm.
grain, like against my own soul? Because, and sometimes what's so sad, and I've had tons of clients like this, is you're so used to functioning in that low energy that you think it's normal.
Normal.
And you've
Mhm.
never even tasted what it's like to wake up, whether it's a Monday morning or a Saturday morning, it shouldn't matter. If you do what you love and you're tuned in and tapped on, you're going to have energy.
Yeah. I mean, this 8 billion is a reflection of that. I mean, I built this synonymously while doing a real estate, a real estate business. And I absolutely loved it. I would do it like early in the morning, late at night. And even if I knew, like God said, okay, you're going to have to work real estate to support this. I would never stop doing this because it's these connections that I have with people that have been a part of my healing journey. It's been like, oh, this happens to you too. Like for a while I thought like, oh my gosh, am I crazy? Am I really having these visions of like really making impact in this world? And who else has these visions? And if they did, they were big CEOs of like, Fortune 500 companies, multi-billion dollar. I was like, who am I to have these visions and dreams?
I love that. I love that. It's so
And so
true.
I buy a
So
little
true.
ring light. I buy Amazon, $35, practice a few times, and then go live. And that's what you're saying. Just like with you and Akashic Records, it's just sort of whoosh.
Exactly.
And that's what my life felt like.
I love that. And that reminds me, the whoosh is like expansion. So for me, I know when something is aligned because I'll feel expansion. When it is not, I feel contraction.
Yep.
And it hurts. Yeah.
And it hurts. Or people, like I was telling you, now I understand what flow is. If there's resistance, why keep going? And honestly, we've been programmed to think, go after your dreams, go after your dream. But like I told you, I'll keep hitting walls. And I was just like, what is this? Like, how many times do I have to go through this? It was like my pattern with relationship. Wow. Okay, Lisa, like over 10 years, like, okay, at which point did I not get it? But everything's in divine timing. What I believe we're at right now is in the beginning of a new era where the energies are going to flow so much easier. So when you feel the resistance, it's going to feel really resistant. And when it feels like it flows, it's going to feel like floodgates open. So that could be a really big indication for you guys if you're looking for certain cues,
Absolutely. I love that because we are called to become aligned to who we truly are. So all of the illusions, all of the superficialities, gone are those days. So yes, I love that. Follow what feels expansive, what lights you up, what feels like flow. It doesn't mean every day of your life you have to be like 100%. That is not what it means. You'll still have challenges, but overall, you'll really feel energized.
Yeah, you really will. You'll feel like in such alignment. And whether we were talking about it, right, whether this is your first time incarnating to Earth, you probably won't be watching this. Just kidding. But if it, wherever you are in your journey, I hope that it, as you tuned into Lynne Marion's work, I hope that I do believe that everyone that was supposed to watch this or come across this was meant to do it. This is amazing. Because Lynne, let me ask you now, of all of these services and your offerings, like what is your one, what's your favorite of all your services and offerings to do?
Oh, wow. Okay, I really, really, really love working with the Akashic Records. So anything that has to do with either having a one-on-one individual session with someone and opening their Akashic Records, or teaching groups of people on how to work with their Akashic Records, that I really love. And I also love, love, love connection. So soul connection. So anything that's facilitating a group workshop or program, I really, really, really vibe. And I also really, really love the life coaching sessions, especially the one-on-one. Why? Because the person gets to know themselves and connect with themselves. So all of those represent connection, inner connection to me. So I think I love it, like just that. And also it just proves to show that there are different ways that you can experience what it is that lights you up. Yes. So, but yes.
Okay, there's the ones that you love to do. And I'm assuming by this point, with all your offerings, you love everything across the board. What are you most known for doing? Or what do people come to you most for services?
Okay, yeah, I love this. So yeah, they would come for either Akashic Records or life coaching for sure.
Okay.
And what happens is they'll pay. I'm also a Heartfulness Meditation Trainer, which is a different modality. And that's offered free of charge to everyone on this planet. Yes,
Really?
Heartfulness is worldwide. All of the Heartfulness trainers, myself, we are 14,000 on this planet, then it's all free of charge. So anyone that wishes to have Heartfulness sessions, that is also possible. And that's also a really beautiful way to connect with yourself. Yes. But
Wow.
that's all in silence when we meditate. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a totally different approach. Like the Akashic Records and life coaching, I'm going to be in
Oh,
interaction
you
and
okay?
speaking. And then heartfulness meditation is just we meditate, but I find it's all of it is divine. But the heartfulness will be in silence and we'll speak a little bit before, a little bit after. But it's also another way of connecting with yourself and living from the heart.
Wow. See, everyone, there is a lot of people on mission here to, to pull down either the fifth dimensional consciousness, which is unity and oneness consciousness, and at the very core, even operate from a base level of love. Now, I also understand, and I have to probably bring this up many times. If you come across this and, it's very woo woo, is the whole love thing. I always say there's so many different messages to pull from each guest. And if you can't find the love yet because there's just so much programming, there's, like I said, go on your journey. It could be kindness, it could be compassion, it could be just being the nicest little, it could be just being kind to yourself by just saying, like this nicest thing. It starts somewhere. So we're all here in service for all of you guys. Lynn, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm going to have another conversation with Lynn after I get off here. But Lynn, if anyone would love to get a hold of you, learn more about your services, how can they find you?
Okay, so www.lynnnemarion.com. So that's lynnmarion.com. And I'm also on Facebook or Instagram at Lynne, Lynne.inspirations. And it shall be my complete pleasure and honor if you do wish to explore any of these together. It's always, always beautiful. And I always find that it arrives at the perfect time. I'm one of those who believes in quality and not quantity. And I love creating space for people just to be. And I find that is what is lacking on this earth right now. So if you want a moment where it'll just be for you and about you and just breathing and allowing yourself to connect, then I'd love to meet you and connect.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I encourage all of you guys to connect with Lynn. I'm telling you, even from not knowing her this whole life to just my first meeting with her, I absolutely feel a deep connection to her. I know that she's got great work. There's just something calming about her soul. So thank you so much, Lynn, for being for contributing to the 8 billion podcast and being a part of the 8 billion family.
Yay! Thank you.
Yay. And to everyone who's tuned into this episode, of course, I am super grateful. This has been by far the greatest of my work to be able to bring all of these guests to you guys. So thank you for tuning into this week's episode of 8 Billion Podcast, and we will catch you on the next episode. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the 8 Billion Podcast. If it's moved you in any way, please share your thoughts or give us a review on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. To listen to more episodes, go to 8billionpodcast.com, or to learn more about our mission, go to 8billionproject.com.